I'm very excited about this drawing because the only reason I drew it was because I wanted to explore comic book shading in the comic book style, and I just wanted to use halftones, and I was directly inspired by the older comic book style with bold lines, bright colors, and just like one layer of shading. So I wanted this drawing to be a merging of a lot of different things. So the drawing itself is inspired by the show, and I wanted their outfits to be inspired by their superhero costumes, and I wanted this style to merge my style with the older comic book kind of style. So I started the sketch by just simply drawing them as they are in the reference picture, and I wanted to draw them with outfits from the time period that the sitcom takes place in, or at least the first 2 episodes, the 1950s. And what I wanted to do was try to add some characteristics of their costumes into their outfits, but that will be shown more in the color scheme because there's not really much to add. So Wanda's dress, I tried to make it into the style of the Scarlet Witch's outfit in the live action movies, because they do change her costume a lot from how it looks in the comic series. And then for Vision, what I want to do with his suit was kind of add the patterns that are on his superhero costume, but you can't really see much of it until I add the colors. And for the line work, I wanted to have very bold lines, and my lines are actually quite thin in comparison to what I wanted to go with, which is like super duper thick lines like how they have in the older graphic novels. And the reason for this is because the coloring will only be just one shade of a super bold color, so the lines just have to be there to support the color so that everything can just look really good together. And the line work was actually very fun to do. It was really nice. There was just a lot to do, and I started with Wanda first, with sketching her and doing her line work first, because Vision was actually quite difficult to do. He has no eyebrows, and I didn't know where to put the lines. Like, his face is just a bunch of lines, and he has all these little patterns and geometric lines on his face because he's like an android, and it's hard to show that without kind of ruining his face. So I had to find a nice balance between that, and I was trying my hardest not to add too much shading to Wanda's lines. Like, I wanted the lines to be as clean as possible, but in some places I couldn't resist adding some cross hatching for extra shadows and details. And her dress, while I was making the lines, I want her dress to look both 1950s and also like her Scarlet Witch outfit. When I was doing Vision's lines, I actually started from his mouth because I didn't know how I was going to do his eyes. He's supposed to have this expression of smiling, but his eyes alone couldn't convey that. But also, he has no eyebrows. He just kind of has a brow line that, you know, shows his expressions, but he has like no hairy eyebrows. So I couldn't just draw eyebrows on for him. So I kind of just did everything else, and then I debated on how I should add his eyebrows. I decided to go with some thin lines that don't really look like eyebrows, but they kind of still represent and help show his expressions. And it wasn't until after I was doing the lines that I realized he didn't have any actual ears, so the ears I drew for him in the sketch, I had to remove them because they're not supposed to be there. And for his suit is just regular and plain. And then after I did the basic bold lines for the outline of his suit, I decided to go in to add the finer details. And his suit is actually where I wanted to show most of his costume. so that's where all these little lines come from. And for their colors, there's only supposed to be one layer of color because I wanted it to just be directly inspired by the comic book style. So really bold, saturated colors that don't look too obnoxious, but just look really bright and bold, so that they look good by themselves, and also they look good with or without shading. And at first, I already drew this, so the first time I did a lot of experimentation because it was my first time doing all these different kinds of colors like this, like these really bright bold colors that would have no shading. So I messed up quite a lot in the first time I colored this, and also I had already done a different sketch that I decided to abandon. But it was hard to do the Scarlet Witch's dress because she wears a lot of red, and it was hard to distinguish that in her dress. She doesn't wear any white, any black, she just wears a whole bunch of red, these different shades of red. So it was hard for me to convey that into her dress. And Vision's face was alright to do, but I wanted to make his face a bolder shade of red to kind of match her dress, and I think that worked out really nicely. And when it came to his suit, I had to find the perfect balance between the greens and the reds that I was using. I didn't want him to look like a Christmas tree, so I had to make sure that the colors look really good together. And the colors in his suit are much darker, but I did change them just a little bit so that they could match much better. His suit, I didn't want his suit to be overly dark because then you wouldn't be able to see the lines, so I kind of went a little lighter with that. And then I added some extra details just to kind of show his older comic book design with the bold yellows and greens, and also his newer live action design. Simple. Procreate has a whole thing dedicated to it. I thought it was just gonna be a brush that I had to manually do, but no, Procreate has a whole thing dedicated to halftone, so I just had to do it, and then it happened. So after I did that, I just added some highlights and some shading, and then just added whatever else I found fit. I tried to add some shadows, and then I added some pops of colors just to bring everything out a little bit, and then lastly I just did some more final touches, and then that's it. Enjoy the reveal. I hope you enjoy, and also subscribe. I'll be back next Saturday with another video. I got really sick, so I couldn't edit this on Saturday, so that's why it's gonna be on Sunday. Okay, bye.